Patrick here from the Warbirds of Glory Museum. If you're not familiar with us, we're rebuilding the B-25 that is known as Sandbar Mitchell. We're going to start doing these video series that I started in the past called Hangar Happenings. We're going to actually shoot them now instead of doing live feeds. That just kind of shows the stuff that we're doing here on the B-25. A lot of these will be informative. It'll teach you history. It'll also show you some of the inner workings of the B-25 and how we do things. So right now we've been going through all of our hydraulic components for the B-25. Now, Sandbar Mitchell, when she actually crashed on June 27th, 1969 up in Fairbanks, Alaska, over the years, people did come and pilfer parts off the airplane. So we've been very fortunate to have two other B-25s that we're using for parts that were either on static display or our known B-25 that was part of the Russian Lend-Lease program. So by going through all these parts, we're able to make sure that we have everything necessary to actually build a flying B-25. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the B-25 flap actuators. Kind of explain how the actuators actually work on the aircraft and kind of tell you the difference between some of the early and late actuators for the B-25. So what you can see here on the table is these are actually the flap actuators for the B-25. Now there's actually two of these per airplane. So you have one on the left-hand nacelle and one on the right-hand nacelle that actually operate the entire flap system. So I'm going to go ahead and actually kind of disassemble these and just kind of show you guys some of the differences between these two. Now, a lot of the B-25s that are flying obviously have been upgraded to the late style flap actuator, which this one is. This is actually a new old stock actuator, which has never been on an airplane. This is actually a used serviceable one, but this one here is the earlier style. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and just take off these clevises here, which actually attach the actuator to the airplane. So for those that don't understand what an actuator is, I'll kind of explain it. So what happens is basically you have these two ports here, and as fluid comes in, so when the fluid's coming in through this port, it's basically filling this chamber here, and there's a piston in here. So as the fluid comes in through here, the pressure, it actually extends this piston out, this arm out, which therefore moves the flap. Now the reverse, the pressure now comes in through this side, which comes up through this tube, on this side of the pistons, which ultimately will push this piston back. So I'm going to go ahead and end up pulling this nut off here and then pulling the casing off and show you guys this. Now, some of this internal stuff in here is pretty neat, especially for the actual operators of the B-25 that haven't seen this and don't know about this. These differences can learn from this. Now, we've actually taken these apart already, and we've actually cleaned them, and they've actually been lubed for storage. So I'm going to go ahead and set this barrel down here. We'll go ahead and pull this barrel apart too, same thing. Now, one of the things we do is when we store a lot of these hydraulic components, we actually remove all the rubber seals. And the reason being is a lot of these parts that we've had that have actually been sitting around for many, many years that were new old stock have actually had corrosion because of the rubber seals letting moisture get in there. So what we do is we take everything, clean it, and then we go ahead and we actually coat everything with a Boeing T9, which is an oil preservative, which basically leaves like a waxing coating on everything. Everything is then put in sealed bags and sealed bins with desiccant and kept in a dry storage. So then that stuff, make sure that it is stay clean and clear. Back then, they used what was called cosmoline, and this is actually some of the original cosmoline on this piece. And that's what they used to protect the stuff. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and show you these. So this is the piston here, which actually takes the pressure. So in here would be a rubber seal. Now, the big difference that North American changed originally, this is the older style piston. So it actually has a different seal groove. And if you actually compare these two together, you can actually see the difference. This one, the newer style, is actually a little bit bigger groove than the older style. And the reason being is, so North American originally had their own seals, which was actually a North American part number that went on here to seal this actuator. So what they ended up doing is they redesigned this to use basically a standard AN seal. That way it's more for serviceability in the field. If you needed to replace a seal, now you don't need a North American part. You could get a standard Army-Navy part seal for this. So that was the big change they did with the piston. Then they went through and they actually redesigned this piece, the actual gland nut on top. So this is the older style nut, and this is the newer style nut. I mean, they're very similar, but the big difference is they went ahead and they cut this channel in here, and it's got a lock ring, and then it's got a wiper ring. And what this wiper ring does is basically keeps any dirt and grime from getting down in the actuator, which would obviously eventually ruin that seal. So you can see the older style does not have that. The newer style does. Other than that, all the other components and parts of these actuators are actually the same. The cylinders themselves are the same. The caps are the same. The stops are the same. The phenolic plugs are the same. Now I can show you this here. I don't know if it'll be easy to see on this one or not. But here's an example of what I was talking about. So here's one here that came off of one of the actuators we had. When we went through and actually went through all this stuff, we took the best of both worlds to make two good -2, which are the later actuators. So if you look at this here, you can actually see this faint gray line here. And that's actually pitting and corrosion in there that was caused from having a rubber O-ring that was on the seal that sat in there for all these years. So when it was down in here, a little bit of moisture got down in there, and it caused that. Now, this could probably be dished out, sanded out. As long as it was all within tolerance per the original drawings, it could still be used. But we try to find the best parts when we go through this stuff. Like this one here doesn't have that. So that's why it was used to basically put this assembly together. So that's about it with these hydraulic actuators. So the next video I hope to do for you guys, we're actually going to try to shoot one of these every other day right now during the whole coronavirus outbreak here. Just way you guys can have some cool entertainment and learn a lot about the B-25. But I'm going to do one on AC and AN fittings. I know there's a lot of confusion about the two different types of fittings. I've seen some talk on Facebook the last week about it, and we happen to have a large stockpile of these AC fittings. So I'm going to go through, explain the difference of the angles, the difference in the nuts, about why you don't want to mix match these fittings. So, stay tuned. We hope you guys enjoy this little video and a little bit of history on the B-25. And, remember, go to our website, check it out, warbirdsofglory.org. Like our Facebook page, follow our YouTube channel. Right now, we could use all the support possible. So, keep this museum going forward. Let's see this B-25 and see our youth program go. So thank you for watching this, and until next time.